Mike and Mind, Hudson Hott, Scotty Blaisdell, Alan Wagner, LMFT, our first live stream on YouTube. Like we're doing it, you guys. We did
Oh.
it. We're up. Nobody knows about it because now I have to figure out how to tell everybody.
I
Fingers
know
crossed it's up.
well,
Right.
I mean, there maybe some stragglers will make it on. I didn't, I guess we're streaming live right now if someone's listening.
We're streaming live right now. I'm going to go over to our channel because the thing is that being that we are live right now, um, people are able to comment and talk with us. So that's sort of cool, right? Don't you think? Like, so
Yeah.
like, we can actually talk to people now.
You
Like,
keep track of that.
I'm going to keep track of it. But I'm going to have to Google that right now, or look it up on YouTube how I do it. I'm kidding, but I'm not really. Hold on, my cat Ari's trying to steal something from me. Hi. How you guys
Hey,
doing? How was your weekend, Scotty?
my weekend. It was good. It was good. It's coming out of this yuck. So I finally I always kind of say it's like you're talking, but you're outside of yourself, listening to yourself talk when you're sick,
Yeah.
and then
Mhm.
suddenly you
Wherever
come
you
back
are.
to where you're
Wherever
supposed to
you
be.
are, it's
So yeah, I feel like I'm back in real life again.
okay. Well, welcome back.
Thank
Did you
you.
Google or did you search out how to take care of this cold?
Well, I searched out the hot toddy, and that made me not worry about it so much.
I was thinking about this because we've been sort of a little under the weather too. I don't know what we have, but like we've been feeling a little something something here. And I mean, we're still both feeling it right now. But like I spent like a good majority of my night after we went to see Teddy Swims last night, which I'll tell you about after, Googling how to get better with the quickness. I'm the queen of search. I'm like, I feel like I'm the queen of WebMD. I have it all, by the way.
Yeah, I definitely don't recommend that people use WebMD in general. I always I always hear funny stories from doctors and therapists when people try to self-diagnose. But I know, I mean, that's a good point that you're bringing up is everybody's always DIY, they want to figure it out themselves.
Well, we're trying to save money because, medical bills are expensive and a lot of times insurance companies don't cover what it is that you really need, right? I mean, we hear a lot of that going on or whatever it is,
Yeah,
just
and
everything
some
in
folks
general.
buy a boat.
Just, you know what? Trying to unload that sucker right now. I
That
posted
was
it.
from the last episode. I saw you put it up for sale. So
It
you're
is.
trying to get some of the money back, it sounds
I
like, from a
mean,
bad
even if
investment.
I like, trust me, it's killing me right now. But yeah, I posted for $2,000 if you want to buy a boat that doesn't run, that has a steam engine.
It
I'm the person you need to talk to right now.
it may or may not float. We're hopeful on that.
Based on the information that they gave me, who
Yeah.
knows? The thing could
Who
hit
knows?
rock bottom in a matter of minutes. If I
Totally.
had
That's
to go based on what they told me, man,
yeah.
I should have looked that up on YouTube. But
Yeah.
I did. I was looking up like, like quick remedies to like get better so that we could do this podcast today. And and then I go down this rabbit hole. Like I'm the queen of Google and stuff and YouTube. Do you guys do the same thing for like everything? Especially toilet stuff. Toilet stuff is like always.
Well, I think if you become like a homeowner or you just want to be more self-sufficient and you don't want to keep spending money on contractors, whether it's ChatGPT or it's YouTube, it's amazing how it can talk you through pretty much anything. And if as long as you ask the right questions and you ask it the right way, you can pretty much do anything right now.
Yeah, I do that consistently. And sometimes the problem for me is I don't retain the information that I learned, but at least I have my history so I can go back and look for it when I learned it the last time, and maybe
Yeah.
it'll stick this time. But I do that. I did the whole overhaul on my lawn tractor based on following along with someone on YouTube.
Are you
Um,
serious?
oh
So
yeah,
you
I
you like learned the whole thing just off of YouTube.
absolutely.
You didn't have to
I
hire anybody.
No, no, and
Ah,
plants, how to take care of plants and trees, in my area, what grass. I mean, I everything. I just immediately go and search out a YouTube video or Google it. Yep.
No, it's so crazy. Like just even the raspberry bush that we thought we planted, we found out when our son was searching stuff with those apps that you have
those
now.
apps that
Yeah.
detects plants and what kind
That
of plants they are.
it
Have you
wasn't
ever
even
tried
really
that?
Yeah, it's not a regular raspberry plant. It's called a Japanese wineberry, if you've ever heard of those.
Yeah, I have one called Picture This. I don't know if it's the same one, but it's basically the same thing. I used it today. There was a tree, and we're trying to figure out what kind of tree it was. You just zap it, it tells you what it is, what it needs, if
Yep.
it's healthy or not, that sort of stuff.
Dude,
Yeah.
it's crazy that like we've just cut out a bunch of jobs. And I'm sorry to anybody who, is in that field, but I just literally because we've had some rain here, as you know, I think you had it. As a matter of fact, we went to see Teddy Swims last night, got 3 songs in, and then we had the evacuation because we were having some serious thunder. So we had to evacuate because the place was on the water.
Because Teddy literally swims. We.
Yeah,
Yep.
Teddy Swims, totally. Yeah, very funny.
I know. I was joking with Hudson. I'm like, do we get marked as safe right now? I can't believe that it's the second time that his concert has been rained out here. It's crazy.
Wow.
Yep.
But whenever it rains here, so here's what happened. We had this downpour the other day, and we're so new to this area. I'm outside and I'm gonna mow the grass. I was gonna this weekend because we bought the lawnmower, and which I looked up which one was the best one, by the way, on Google. But I found these piles of like dirt in my backyard, like an alien spaceship might have landed, like these mounds of dirt. And I said to Alan, I'm like, Alan, did you fill in holes? Did Red, the dog, like dig a big hole in the back? And because he does dig and there's big holes back there, but he left those out. But these holes, brand new, filled up. Like freaking out. No, he didn't. I asked the kids, no. So I asked ChatGPT, what are these holes? Looks like brown, big piles of sand, almost like quicksand. So I took a picture and put it into the chat GPT, and it told me it's fire ants and that it's very common when you live near the water and that in our terrain and whatever, and that they really hurt like a mother trucker. And so I then, had to go and search out on YouTube how to, get rid of these. You know what I'm saying? So because they'll be marching in the house if, somebody who's young is eating food in their room, you know what I'm saying? It's all these bites. So I had to do all that and come to find out I have to put this stuff around it. But like I was down this hole for like 2 hours learning how to become an exterminator here. I did that. That's what I did.
Yeah, I think a lot of times you have to figure out is it within the scope of what I'm capable of, and do the steps actually cost more than it would cost to get a professional to come in, and then the work is guaranteed. So if you're not going to be good at it, if you don't think you're going to complete it the proper way, you'll end up paying the professional anyway to fix your work. So there are those decisions to be made, but I tend to be like you. And I just had I had to get my car inspected, and they said, "Oh, you need to change your air filter, whatever." They always do that. But he showed it to me. I'm like, yeah, I'll just do that. And yeah, and then I just go and I'm like, wait, which one is it? Look it up. Boop, boop, boop. Where is it? Click, click, throw it in. Yeah.
This is so crazy because I've known Scotty my whole life practically.
Yeah.
And prior to him owning this ride-on lawnmower, this tractor, okay? I never thought Scotty was that guy. You were the guy that would make the call. You would call somebody
Yeah.
to come and fix the refrigerator or the dishwasher, whatever it was, Scotty. I just remember those days. Hey, you know anybody? But look at you now. Look at you now. Because of what? Because of ChatGPT, Google, YouTube. You know what I'm saying?
I'm curious because I know you referred to the medical stuff a moment ago, Dr. Allen. Um, do you think people are now more like hypochondriacs because of it? You look something up and then suddenly it's like, oh, that kind of sounds like this. And then you start looking at the worst thing it could be. And then, like, I know someone who's gone to the doctor and argued with the doctor
Yep.
because no, you're not hearing me. I have
Really? Like
this,
had a
this,
full-on
this.
argument because they WebMD'd it?
Yeah. And they don't believe the doctor really listened to them because they've clearly know what their problem is.
No, it's I've heard the same thing from attorneys as well as doctors because I think people are so quick to do their own research. But I mean, going into the medical field, for example, it's interesting as a marriage and family therapist and a psychotherapist. a lot of the stuff that we talk about are just clusters of symptoms that have a criteria to meet a diagnosis. And it's just a way for professionals to discuss with one another, like, okay, a combination of maybe fatigue, lethargia, headaches, nausea, whatever it is. But if you think about the symptoms that, like when you watch a pharmaceutical company commercial and they say, like, may cause blank, may cause dizziness, it's like, have you ever been dizzy? Yeah. Have you ever felt a little tired? Yeah. Have I ever felt nauseous? Or yes, I have. Have I ever had difficulty sleeping? Or have I felt overly tired? And the thing is that these symptoms recur over and over and over and over again. And it's like the small differentials that make it a diagnosis. But if a person just looked it up and just did the basics, they think they have everything.
So, and the other side of that, I think, is like this person that I know was prescribed a medication
Mhm.
and then decided they didn't want to take it because they looked online and there was some people that had said they had had bad effects from it. And if you think about it, most every medication probably does have people
There's
that
always some
get
Yeah.
side effects.
laundry list. May have diarrhea,
So,
may have constipation,
yeah,
may have night sweats,
Yeah,
whatever.
just from
and it's
liability
and it's like
purposes.
if you know that somebody probably, but it wouldn't get out there if it wasn't at least mostly not causing that. Can we agree on that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's a legal liability thing. I think it's people just have to say those things so they don't get sued later because it may not even be causation of the medication. It could just be correlation, meaning that the person took that medication, got that thing. They can't prove that it caused it or didn't, but the person did get that diagnosis or whatever happened to them after the fact. And so again, is it correlation? Is it causation? But it's just from a legal perspective, I think they would rather just say all those symptoms and kind of keep people from suing them. But I do know what you mean in the sense that I think that most of these things are not going to cause those symptoms. It's just really to kind of protect the pharmaceutical company or the medical facility. But that said, when it comes down to it, I think that people should not just be doing their own research and assuming that it's infallible. And I think I remember saying that to a lawyer once when I was trying to, because I have clients sometimes that'll actually upload all of their court documents into ChatGPT and start getting legal advice from ChatGPT about what state they're in and what this code means or what that code means. And I remember the lawyer just saying to me, it's like, that's not how it works. California doesn't work like that. So I think that I think we want to be self-sufficient. We want to figure things out on our own, and I like that people can. You said something actually earlier, and I'll stop talking in a second. But when you were talking earlier about the fact that when you look something up, sometimes with ChatGPT or Google, you don't really remember it. And I think back to Hudson and I were talking about this not that long ago about the Encyclopedia Britannica days. That when we were kids and there was something we didn't know, our parents would be like, look it up in the encyclopedia. And so we'd go to the encyclopedia and we'd research it and we'd look up all the different things. And maybe we'd go to a library in the card catalog. And eventually we learned about it, but we retained it. And I feel like we're heading into sort of like we're all going to have personal assistants. And it's not that we're learning this stuff, it's almost like they're just going to be like our tutor and they're going to kind of help us through something, but we're not really learning how to do it. We're just following their instructions.
Yeah, I think a perfect example of that is
Yeah.
the GPS system. When
Yep.
Oh,
you get in your car, how many times have you gone to someone's house? And if you didn't have the GPS, would you remember how to get to their house?
never in a million years.
No, I just
I would
follow,
never.
turn left, turn right, take this.
Dude, same thing with the phone numbers now, okay? I don't know your phone number. I've known you for almost 30 years. I don't know your phone number. I don't know Alan's phone number. I barely know my own. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, we have
Yeah.
gotten so comfortable and we're getting even more cushy with all of this AI technology that's coming out and everything just at our fingertips. Do we really need to learn anything? Because everything you can I mean, like, really, like, I mean, no joke. I feel like this younger generation, I can't believe I'm saying it like that, but they just look it up. They don't feel like every school, this is a waste of time. Like,
Mm.
you can just get the information right here, you know?
But even in our day back in school, we would say, well, we can just use our calculators,
Yep.
and they say, well, you're not going to have a calculator with you. Well, we pretty much do all the time. And, you know, I mean, okay, there are times, like if say I go to see Alan and I tell him something, description of what's going on. And then he goes, hang on a second. And he goes to his phone and he starts looking up the answer. I would have a problem with that.
You think?
Okay.
You think,
But
Scotty?
if you go to your doctor and he goes, ooh, those are four interesting symptoms. Hang on a second. Clickety click click. Well, I would have a problem with that. But for the most part, we don't know when people are using technology to do whatever they're doing. They're writing forms, they're coming up with creative ideas. And if you really push it, they go, yeah, that was ChatGPT.
Yeah.
I had someone tell me that the other day. I go, well, that was well written. That
Dude.
wasn't me.
No, I've
If,
had clients
if
read
I
this.
experience that at the doctor's office, I'm telling you right now, I'm out. I'm out.
That's right.
I actually do think about that when I read email sometimes or letters to try to figure out if it was a human that did it or not. Because when it's too overly sensitive and trying to like placate me and tell me that I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, but it just wasn't my fault, it's not personal, then I just get a sense that ChatGPT is figuring out the tone of that and
I'm
they're
being
they're the ones who
handled.
are writing it. But no,
It's
you're
crazy
right.
though.
I mean,
Listen, I looked it up when you know the whole boat situation, right?
mhm.
Mhm.
That's how I looked up that I can go after them in a small claims court. So I told ChatGPT, I yell at Chat. Alan will tell you, I yell at ChatGPT, and I will tell them they suck.
It apologizes. It'll say, I'm
Uh,
sorry, I can hear your frustration, Hudson. And it will start to actually apologize for not living up to the expectation she has for it. And then when she says, you promised me this, it's saying it'll keep
I do say
working,
that. You
trying to
promised
do
me.
it and saying sorry. And it's almost surreal to listen to this like computer apologizing.
It does, but and I like it. You know what I mean? I haven't tried. I so it apologizes, like saying, "Oh my gosh, you're so right." I'm really sorry that I disappointed you, but like it did give me all the information that I needed and what I needed to do and the steps. I've never taken anyone to court. You know what I mean? I've never even been to court. So
Mhm.
I had no idea where to start. And it gave me the full outline, told me where I needed to go. Here's a link to click it. Can I help you? Get your things together. Like it was crazy. I would have had to hire possibly like maybe an attorney to help me with this. I don't know. But now I don't. I have ChatGPT.
Hmm. Yeah, I wonder what, as someone who's in law, how they feel about this. I think
If
even
you are
Alan.
if you're in an attorney, can you let us know like how ChatGPT works? Is it like, will it help? What?
Well, but Alan alluded to earlier the fact that a lawyer is talking to, so that's absolutely not true. So
Correct.
Chat GPT is not guaranteed to be the truth. And I think people also have to keep that in mind. You need
Correct.
to go follow this up with a little research of your own, maybe ask someone who's in the business or whatever to say, does this make sense? And get a little outside perspective. I will tell you one way it really helps, though, when
What?
you're dealing with automobile mechanics. I am so fearful
Oh my
of
Mhm.
getting
gosh.
taken
You
advantage
got
of
taken so
constantly.
badly once. I remember this.
And so, but if I have a little bit of the lingo, if I said, you know, we ran the code and it said da 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 da, I'm thinking and I'll throw something out, and the guy goes, oh, okay. Yeah, yeah,
That's
we
what he's
tried.
talking about.
And then the guy doesn't talk down to me and he
Yeah.
just takes me seriously. But if you go in and go, I don't know, it's going click, 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 and
Yep.
it could be, and they go, oh, sounds like an alternator, and you're like,
Didn't you
okay.
didn't you once have that you needed a whole new your wife went in to bring a car in? Do you remember that story, Scotty?
Yes.
You got to tell me. Retell it. Can I relive?
Well,
Can I just take a break for a moment and relive? This is when you should have probably looked it up and had that lingo. What happens?
no, my wife went in and they told her all these things that needed to happen. But the problem was I had taken it in. I already kind of knew what needed to happen. So when she went in, I thought they were taking advantage of her because she's just like, okay, my husband sent me in and oh, well, it needs this, 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 this. So I just got the person on the phone and told them I didn't appreciate it. That's all. It's a simple story. I think what was funny about it was the first time that Hudson had ever seen that side of me.
Yes. Because it happened in the studio. Like we
Yeah,
were live on air when all
yeah.
of it was going down.
And,
And
and I don't raise my voice, I don't curse, whatever, but I was very
He was.
direct,
Yeah.
and yeah,
It was a crazy time. But I think that looking that stuff up in advance with the lingo like you are now and
yeah,
having that knowledge is sort of helpful, you
yeah.
know?
I mean, we could say the same thing. We're talking about installing new doorknob locks. And in the past, I would have just gone into Yelp or started searching contractors on, how to get a new lock installed or a new door handle installed. And now it's just go to Lowe's or Home Depot, pick it
And we're
up,
gonna watch a
and we're
video.
just going to watch a video and do it. And it's
Sound as
actually
a drill.
interesting when you were talking about that doctor analogy of if you were giving symptoms and they were looking it up. Hudson and I were joking about the difference between Lowe's and Home Depot. And I know this is kind of and maybe you're laughing, but maybe you know this is true. If
I
you
know
go
what you're
to
going to
Home
say.
Depot, they do tend to understand what they're talking about. So if you're working on a home project of a room or something outside, whatever your project is, and you start to explain it to them, not only will they steer you in the right direction of the supplies you need, they'll actually give you advice and maybe even like open up new ideas you hadn't even thought of. But if you go to Lowe's and you ask them the question, then they're pulling out their phone and they're literally Googling the same. It's almost like Best Buy these days. Like even though they're in the department that they're supposed to be the expert of, they're not. The questions about the computer at Best Buy that you're asking, they're on Google researching the same thing you could do. And it's the same thing with Lowe's too, with the hardware stuff and the home improvement stuff. But I think we are moving into an era where we can be a lot more self-sufficient.
That
I,
wasn't
I'm
what you
going to
thought he was gonna say.
Well, I'm just going to stand up for a few Lowe's folks that I have dealt with, but I know exactly what you're saying. I totally agree. I'll walk in, and if someone immediately goes to their phone, I go, "Oh, you know what? I got it." And
Yep.
I'll go find that person that I know knows something. And a lot of times it's the years of experience. A lot of times the veterans, the people that work there that are for some reason, they just have more knowledge. I like those guys.
I know. No, it's really
Yeah.
true. We were just there, and the guy literally had to pull out his phone to
Yeah.
let me to look up what aisle it was in, and if they had, like
Yeah.
really like, you know what I'm saying? But we are all so dependent on devices and
Hmm.
searching, and I think it's even now again, it even happens at Lowe's, you know?
Yeah, and it's technology. I think there's getting to be a pushback now against some of it, and an example of that is the self-checkout,
Hmm.
which was a really nice thing when it first came out. Because if you're just in a hurry, you go over zap zap and you're gone.
Right. You've got 5 items, I'm out.
Then they started deleting the people, and it
Yep.
just became more and more of that. Now, if you have vegetables, if you have fruits, you have to know the code and you have to
Yep.
weigh it, and then
Yep.
you have to pack it. And then I'm like, now I'm irritated that I have to do all of this. And my suggestion is give me a 5% discount
Yes, I'm with you
because
on that.
I work now for you. I get an employee discount.
Right?
And, I'm not getting paid, but I'm getting a little something. Then I feel okay, I did a little something, but I'm getting something.
Yep, I'm
I,
with you.
it sounds crazy what you're saying, but do you guys remember when full serve and self serve at the gas stations became a thing?
Oh, yeah.
Hmm.
And there was two different prices. If you decided to do it
That's right.
yourself, it was cheaper, and if you wanted them to do it, you paid more. And so, what you're saying is not completely out of the realm. I
I
totally,
love this idea, Scotty.
yeah,
How do we get that ball rolling so that if
Yeah.
you do a self-checkout, you get a 5% discount? I really think that that should be put into place because I think most people do that, and I think that people will feel happier. They'll shop more frequently at that establishment rather than just going where the sales are because they know they're getting a 5% discount. I think it's a great idea.
There you
but
go. Mark that one.
But on a different, like pivoting a little bit to what we were talking about with the AI stuff, do you guys think that, how like in the old cartoons we used to watch when we were kids, there'd be like a little angel or a devil on our shoulders telling us do this or don't do this, and it would sort of kind of guide us through our decision making process. I've seen a couple kid movies the last few years about these sort of AI, like these like assistants, kind of like personal tutors. And a lot of people think it's going to change schools altogether, where they won't go to a regular classroom and have a teacher. Each human will have their teacher. And that eventually could become adults too, where we almost have our own sort of personal assistant that answers our questions, that does
Mhm.
things, tasks for us as we ask it to. And do you think that's where we're headed? That we're going to be basically not learning anymore, just in real time? deferring our knowledge base. Because I hear people like kind of when Hudson was sort of joking, but she wasn't when she was saying that she argues with ChatGPT. Because I really do hear her arguing with ChatGPT, and ChatGPT gets very, very
I do.
defensive and then apologetic, and it's actually kind of surreal to
I
watch.
went to the next
But
phase. I even demanded a refund.
but cut to three years from now, think about how seamless it's going to be, where you'll just have this little earbud in and you're just talking away, and we'll just start to see people walking down the street having internal discussions that would have been in their own subconscious or unconscious, and now it's happening with this AI that they're talking to like it's alive when it's not.
Well, there's movies about it, Her and
Yep.
other movies like that. And the idea is it's learning about you
Yeah.
as you live your life. I mean, that's already going on.
It is. It already
But if
is.
I
And
upload all of my business documents, all of my legal documents, all of my, tax stuff, like anything that I upload, it's just getting further understanding of Alan. If I upload my schedule, what Alan likes to do in his free time, it's going to eventually be able to know me better than I know myself. And I think that's sort of scary.
yeah, and I think a lot of us don't know ourselves at all. And you know,
We're
you
still
you
trying to figure
you
out who
start
we are.
and you start to see what comes at you on the screen, and you start to think, What have I been watching or following that makes this think this is what I want to see?"
Hmm.
Especially, because you're like,
I'm
I
going to give you
that's
an
kind of
example.
ex
Yeah.
that's kind of extreme, this thing I just saw.
Yep.
Right. No,
YouTube.
no. Okay. We're laying in bed and a little meme pops up of Katy Perry, the astronaut. Okay.
Yeah,
Katy Perry as the astronaut. She called
incredible.
herself an astronaut.
Yes.
The next slide was what, Alan? Katy Perry as what? A Krispy Kreme donut maker.
Yes.
Okay.
A plumber because she once had to plug a toilet. One
Right. So
time.
they put her in these outfits,
Yeah.
Katy Perry the plumber. Like, okay. And so because we talked about it, now this was on Alan's phone. This wasn't even on my phone, mind
Yep.
you. But
Hmm.
because we talked about it and I giggled about something, guess what's showing up now in my Facebook feed?
I have
Katy
no
Perry
clue. It couldn't be
memes.
Katy Perry.
Yep.
My phone was off. My phone was next to me. It wasn't on my phone. But that's the weird part. So how does that happen? You know what I'm saying? Our phones are on all the time and
They're
listening.
on all the time. I think that's the illusion that I think a lot of people don't realize. And if they read the actual user agreements of what, the technology they're using before they start using it, they'd know that you're giving permission to the microphone, you're giving permission to the camera. And so at any given point, these apps or these, they can just turn on at any point and be listening. And again,
And,
people
and
say, well, oh, I have nothing to hide. It doesn't matter whether you have anything to hide or not. It's just listening
Your
and trying to learn
privacy.
about you. It's
Like,
your privacy. And when people say, well, I'm not a person of interest, well, you're not right now. It's only, in a couple of years, who knows?
who
Then
knows?
your
You might be
then your
going for
data footprint
being a
will
president.
matter. Yeah, right now,
and how
who
many
cares if
times
they search you?
if you go on and update your iOS at any
Yeah.
point, you'll also see videos that follow it. Here are the things you need to turn off now,
Mhm.
because they automatically turn certain things on
Yeah.
when they update your phone. So you got to constantly be fighting against them turning things on within your system. But as Alan said, you've agreed to a lot of this stuff, and they'll say it's for marketing purposes,
Right.
to serve you better, it's to whatever.
Yeah, to target you
But
better,
To
the
target
ads
you
you want
better.
to
it,
see. Make sure that you're
Yeah.
it's
seeing the right ads.
ultimately good for you. Well,
Correct.
how many of us love people just walking into our home to see what kind of things we bought so they could serve us better? And
Yeah.
Yes,
that's kind
exactly.
of what they're
Yeah.
doing.
That's
Yeah, I
exactly what
know.
they're doing.
I
Yep.
don't even know how, okay, I don't know how we got here because we were talking about the searching of like weird, like, because it all starts like people will be laying in bed and at weird hours, you're Googling your sickness, your illness, why did he break up with me? Like it's across, I mean, the craziest stuff. I looked at like a list of some of the craziest things that people look up. Like somebody once looked up, can I poop in the shower and push it down the drain with my foot? That was one of the questions that was asked.
Was
Is
the
that not
answer
insane?
was the answer not if you've had corn?
Yes,
Oh, why would we even say
yes.
that? Oh my
I
God.
can't. Oh my God. No,
Oh,
apparently that's called a waffle
Sorry.
stomp. A waffle stomp or something. It's a
a
real,
waffle stomp. There's actually a name for it.
There's a name.
It sounds fitting, actually, the Waffle
Look at
Stomp.
Scotty.
I'm sorry.
Oh my God.
It's the name that got me. The cough's back.
Is this going
Okay.
to be the name of the episode, Waffle Stomp?
Waffle
Waffle
Stomp.
Stomp. Listen, I had people messaging me now for days about please let little Ricky out of the car. That
Oh
was our
God.
last episode. And if you want to know about that one, listen
Yes.
to our latest episode, our last episode.
So hashtag Waffle
Waffle
Stomp.
Stomp. And
Yes.
so that's a thing, you guys.
All
So
right.
you'll want to
Well,
Google that later.
somebody thought
But you
at
know
some point
what?
I need to look this rather than
Look,
just do it and try it myself. Let me see what the experts say.
look, I think sometimes the human brain is a hard thing to turn off. And so a lot of times with clients, I'll tell them to keep a notepad by their bed because the things that I'll catch myself thinking about late at night is
Waffle Stomp.
an actor or director, what's their next movie that's coming out, or a baseball team or a Waffle Stomp. But but a lot of times you're thinking about weird, like I'm trying to think of some of the weird stuff that I've looked at the last couple of days about movies or athletes. I think it was a baseball player I looked up because I just wasn't sure if he was something popped up about him being in the Hall of Fame, and I was trying to think about how many wins he had. And it really didn't do anything for my life, whether he's in the Hall of Fame or not. I'm not even a fan of this player, but I couldn't stop my brain from cycling into thinking about it and trying to remember in the morning to look that up. And it was keeping me awake. And so I've said to a lot of people, if you think about your brain and it just not wanting to forget things. And that's why a lot of times people are up at night sleeping or they're searching weird things on YouTube or Google. It's because they don't want to forget in the moment what they're curious about. But if you write it down and you can convince your brain that you follow up on your list in the morning, then you can actually just go right to bed and look it up in the morning. And probably in the morning, you won't care about the waffle stomp or whatever it is you're looking up. It won't matter anymore. But it is funny how if you're listening to this and you stay up late at night and you find yourself thinking about really weird cartoons you can't think of the name of, or an actor who just, who was in some sitcom you used to watch and now you can't remember his or her name. And if those are the kind of things you think about at night, you should keep a pad by your bed.
Okay. Fair enough. Sorry, I was on the IHOP website just seeing if they serve the waffle stump
The waffle stomp.
over at
Hey,
IHOP.
oh, do they have that on the
Do they
iHop?
have a waffle stump?
Mhm.
No, but of
So does waffle
course
stomp
not.
does is that like a chocolate waffle or is that a
Oh, gross. Who the
Okay.
hell takes a dump in their shower?
Okay. All
I
right.
can't believe people would even think about that.
Right. Or even ask. Or
Well, I'm
ask.
finding out more and more that it's very common for people to pee in the shower. And I've had many a client just mention to me those kinds of things casually. So I guess it's a thing that it's okay to pee in the shower. It's just pipes. And I'm not trying to be judgmental about it. If you do pee in the shower, it's fine. I mean, it's just going down the drain anyway. But I don't know who would be thinking about a solid like fecal matter. That's weird. That in the
So
brain doesn't sound the same as urine.
Scotty,
beyond beyond that, what else do people look up? Or is that it? That's all they look up.
no, no. They also look up about how to get pimples out of your ears. That's a really big one.
Oh,
Pimples inside your ears and how to do that.
all
There's
right.
a YouTube guy and you can watch all the videos, Dr. Pimple Popper.
Pimple popper. Yeah,
But
I've
isn't
heard of
it
that.
interesting too? Like, I sometimes get curious about things. Like for example, on YouTube, I remember becoming curious about Antarctica because I heard somewhere that maybe it had a forest underneath and it was a totally different landmass, and that somehow on old maps it had migrated from a different part of the globe to the South Pole. And that wasn't always the case and everything just froze. It was like a cataclysm. And they've done search under the ice. They've seen things that, are showing that there probably were forests or fossils or things there in the past. So maybe that it did actually move with tectonic plates or something. But it's funny how when you're curious about stuff like that, and I was, just curious about Antarctica for some reason, next thing you know, YouTube assumes that if you're looking up Antarctica, you must be thinking about aliens. And next thing you know, it's all about aliens. Aliens
Yeah.
living under
Aliens,
Antarctica and secret
paranormal,
tunnels.
by the way, is a big one on here. I finally have the list in front of me because I was just the waffle stomp thing just made me just
But let's
die.
not talk about that.
No, we're not. But here's one. I think a ghost is in love with me. Can you write our vows? That was a
Yeah.
real question asked, okay?
Hmm.
And
So is that person
so
saying the ghost wants to be their boo?
that's a good dad joke. But
Yeah.
like,
Thank you. I,
how,
I tip my cap for the folks on
and how do
YouTube.
and how do I break up with a ghost nicely? That's another weird, like that's weird. I mean, we had
Does
ghosts.
the ghost stay there wherever you were? Or
I
because they
know.
haunt places, or do they travel with you if you move?
Well, is it like an ex stalking you, except now that the ex is just ever present?
Yes.
Is it like an ex? Yeah, because
Just
Scotty
sitting
and I had
there.
a ghost. We had a ghost. We even had a psychic, Victoria Bullis, tell us about this ghost that would hover over Scotty. You remember
Yeah.
that?
Yep. Yep. I remember
But
that.
okay, yeah. Um, they've asked, can you write a love poem to my ex's new girlfriend's plant?
My ex's new girlfriend's plant. Doesn't make sense. Go ahead.
But
Keep
again,
moving.
these are the things that people are like weird stuff that people are searching out. If I swallowed a Lego, will it become part of me?
Okay. I mean, as ridiculous as some of these things are, is it better than the let's turn everybody into baby trend? Have you guys seen those? Where
What's
it's
that?
like every celebrity is turned into a baby
Oh yeah, yeah. I've seen that. Yeah.
and they'll have musical artists or actors
I'm
and
gonna read. I'm just gonna read. So you guys touch upon. Okay. Should I quit my job and move to Sedona and sell crystal infused air?
hmm.
It's another one.
Okay.
Uh, if I hypothetically buried a chicken nugget in 2009, would it still be there? Like these are real things that people are asking.
The hypothetical
Yeah,
chicken
hypothetical.
nuggets last forever.
Uh,
Yeah.
Okay.
um,
So without going into the details and the minutia of
the other
these
one's really
missing
gross.
requests,
They're yucky. They're really like
why do you think that people are even
sexual stuff. A
thinking of
lot of
these
sexual
things?
stuff.
Are people this bored that you just sit on your phone and now it's too boring to even watch TikTok or YouTube, so you're just on ChatGPT coming up with weird scenarios to see
Well, why don't you think about yourself when you drive, and if you actually wrote down every thought you had as a song comes into your brain, you see a tree, you see a building you've never seen, you see an animal. What animal was that? You know, all of that stuff is always going on in our brain. And if we're just sitting there with all of it in our hand,
yeah.
why not? You know,
Yes,
answer a
ChatGPT
question.
something right now. Uh,
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you something really weird. If I were to stick my penis into the end of a shop vac, would it feel good? So here we're going to hear back. Here we go. No, it's not a good idea. Shop
Thank you.
vacs are extremely powerful and not designed for anything remotely close to that kind of use. The suction can cause serious injury. Again, that was one of the questions that was asked on here, but I just wanted to see what it would say to me. Insane stuff. At least it said no, not to do that.
Well,
So
at least it's answering
I
it's
got
answering
the.
questions.
You want me to ask, Scotty? Do you want to ask it anything?
No, I can do that on my own.
Which we do.
So you think it's mostly just like sexual questions that people are asking ChatGPT? I feel like
No,
people are
no,
just
not at all.
they're
I just the ones
literally
that they gave me were those weird ones was the waffle stomp and some of those other weird ones. Those were the weirdest things that have been asked, of Chat GPT, which again, most of them I don't really want to talk about because they're yucky, but
but is it a good thing to let like I guess when you think more existentially about AI and it's not just your AI, it's everyone's AI. And so when we're giving people all of these details that make Scotty unique or Hudson unique or Alan unique, so that it can be more tailor-made to Alan or Hudson or Scotty, is that a problem? Are people becoming a lot less private? And what are the consequences of it? Because AI is still controlled by huge corporate entities that are still profit driven. So I can't say that I trust every company that's got AI going for it right now. They're still profit driven companies. So, is it okay that people are giving all this information away? And do you guys worry about that at all?
I worry about it all the time, and I think it's it's more so that I think the world is more manipulative than it's ever been. I think that it like I'm always feeling like I'm being sold. I'm skeptical of everything I read, everything I see.
Yep.
I just don't live the same way I used to, taking things at face value because that face may be generated. That's a deep fake. I don't know anything. It's just, I'm constantly on edge, and skeptical. And I don't like being that way. I want to be a trusting person, but I think it's taken a lot of that away from my nature. If someone says something to me, I have that really, attitude about it.
Yeah. I worry about it all the time only because, Alan always has me worried about passwords and things like that and everything else. And, having his identity was stolen before, I've had the same thing, but not to his level. But yeah, it just makes me uncomfortable having all that information out there.
Yeah. And I think as well, people can, they can stalk you a lot easier than they used to be able to. There's just, there's so much information. Here's the other thing I think was kind of interesting about how technology has changed. I think initially it was bringing us information. It
Hmm.
was like, oh, let me go search that, give that to me. And then it started to become this, here's the next thing you need because of that.
Right.
And I think it starts to guide us instead of being at our fingertips to follow us.
Right. It keeps a
Well,
follow-up. There's a
well, that's
follow-up, a constant follow-up of some sort.
Well, that's what I was sort of saying. Like in the beginning, I think with Google, it was let's tailor or Facebook, it's let's tailor make the experience more for Scotty or for Hudson based on their interests. So if I was searching certain things or certain companies or whatever it is, then a Google search would adapt to it, the algorithm, so that it would give Alan what it wants more. And so it seemed like it was a lot more person centered. But I feel like now it's more just profit driven. And so how things rank and how things get answered by an AI or by a search engine is based on who's paying for it. And I think maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe I'm paranoid, but at some point, I think if you guys ever hear about with AI, there's a thing that they call it the singularity. And that's when all of the AIs will merge together and it'll obtain life-like consciousness. And at that point, that's when we'll have the Terminator or whatever, like a real, it'll all be one and it'll be alive, so to speak. But for
Do you
right
really think that's
now,
going to be, do you think we're really going to have our own personal AI? Do you really believe that?
yeah, 100%.
Do you, Scotty?
Yeah, how can it not be headed that way?
Well, I mean, already they have it doesn't one of the Kardashians have that Elon Musk robot at their house?
The iRobot.
The iRobot. I think so. I mean, do you think, would you get a robot? I mean, I would just for the laundry.
Yeah.
I don't know, not at this point. I think it's just like flying cars. I would never be the first one.
Scotty, what happened to the flying car? It still hasn't happened. You told me
Well,
years ago it was going to happen.
there's different versions of it now. They're using the
Yeah.
drones and they're using other technologies to get these things, but there's no way that it's doable anywhere in the near future. Yeah, I just think that it's one of those things where you can't go backwards now. You can't put the genie back in the bottle.
No.
So yeah,
Yeah.
we're headed that way, whether you like it or not.
Well,
Now there are having requirements where they have to say sponsored and things like that. When
Mhm.
Right.
like when you do a list, make sure you pay attention to that. I would give that advice if you didn't know. It'll say, what's the best pressure washers? That's one I had looked up. And and then you see a little sponsored and you realize
Right.
Yeah.
it's probably on the list.
But
You
it's
know what I'm
not.
saying?
It's not. It's because they were a paid sponsor to be up at the very top. So
Right.
Right,
that's
right.
what that is. The same thing when you look up the best restaurant in whatever area you're going to be in when you're traveling, you got to look, not sponsored, not partnered. You got to go to the real list.
Yeah.
Well, we're all unique. It's like going into a restaurant now and asking the waiter or waitress, what do you think I should order? Because they're not you. And so I think they can tell you what they would order, but it's not necessarily what you would order. And so I think if you're asking it how to do something, how to fix something, how to construct something, that's different. But when you're talking about subjective taste of the best blank or the best or the worst blank, I think that's a hard one because that's sort of a subjective experience, and the programmer is really the person who's deciding that, not necessarily the AI, at least not yet.
What a
Yeah.
world that we're in right now.
Yeah.
I don't even know what the title of this podcast is because we started talking
I
about
think we know the title of the
I think we need
podcast.
to.
yeah, the waffle
Say it together. Waffle
waffle stomp.
Waffle
Stomp.
Stomp. But
Wow. And people are going to have to listen for a long time to get to that, by
but
the way. But when they do,
okay,
It'll be worth the wait.
it's so
but
worth it.
but I think like if you're listening to this right now, are you one of those people who thinks about weird things at night? Because I do think it's at the end of the day when our brain is
Yes.
sort of letting go of work, letting
Got to
go of
get
our
weirdness to slow
kids,
down.
letting go of all that stuff. It's when the weird stuff enters,
Hmm.
about what's how late does this movie theater stay open? What's the last showing that they would have of that? What's the number one movie that's going to come out in August? What's the last 10 movies Nicolas Cage did? There's just random stuff that comes into your brain as you're shutting down.
Because
And
it's
And
late at night.
your piece of advice was to keep that paper so you
correct.
can write those things down. I know my wife struggles with a lot with this a lot.
Mhm.
Like we were preparing for what do you call it? A home. Hey, I got a new home. Come over.
Oh,
Party.
oh,
An
oh,
open
open
Housewarming.
house.
housewarming.
Yeah,
Housewarming.
housewarming. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Words escape me. Where's my AI? And I guess she woke up in the middle of the night, she told me, and she never went back to sleep because it was like something to do with the snacks. And I'm like, how did you let that wreck you? But it's just how our mind works. And how do we stop that? How do people go to sleep, Alan?
I yeah, I know it's not good to stimulate yourself at night, probably. And so if you're thinking about things, they always say sleep hygiene in my field, and that bed should be for sleep or sex. That's it. And you shouldn't be just watching TV in bed. You shouldn't be on your phone in bed. You shouldn't be on your laptop in bed. Because once you start to associate other things with your bed, then mentally it's not clicking into sleep as soon as you go onto your bed. So I do understand, that aspect of things as well. But I do think that sometimes we just have to understand what's really pertinent and what's not, and just start to trust ourselves that we'll do what we say. And if I put something on, Hudson knows about my lists. I'm very crazy when it comes to making,
It's a crazy list.
and I
Like
do it
it's
on my
making me
phone, notepad,
anxiety.
a lot of things I write down because I know I won't forget it. But it helps me to be less anxious in the moment because as soon as like she'll say, "Oh, Alan, don't forget we're going to be doing this," I'll just say, "Text it to me so I can put it on the list." And then at that point, I don't have to think about it. It's in my to-do list and I know I'll take care of it, but it's not circling in my head and keeping me awake or occupying real estate in my brain that's going to be preventing me from thinking about other things that could be much more helpful. So I think,
And
yeah.
I was going to say, to add on to that, I remember during our show, Hudson would think of something and she would blurt it out. And people loved that about her, but sometimes it would take us in a different direction than we were headed. So I would always say, when you think of something, just write a little note to yourself,
Yep.
and we'll talk about it on the next break.
Yep.
But she needed to get it out because that's just how her mind works. I thought of it, and I don't want it to go anywhere. Here it is.
I gotta say it. I gotta
Well,
say it.
exactly. It's like the kid who keeps raising their hand in the classroom because they're so scared they're going to forget what they were going to say to the teacher. But I agree 100%. If you write it down, a lot of the stuff that you'll look at later that you wrote down in the morning or later in the day, you'll realize was so stupid, and you won't care about it anyway. You won't even look it up.
Scotty,
Or you'll know
some of
the
those
answer
things
of,
I would
the
blurt
kid from
out were so
who
worth it,
who
weren't
was it
they?
that I who was it that didn't invite me to their birthday party in third grade? And I'm gonna make sure I have to email some friends of mine from third grade and see if they can remind me on who that person was. And then it'll just come to you anyway in the middle of the day, and then you'll see that note and you'll be like, I guess I don't have to email anybody. It was Adam. So he didn't invite me to his birthday party.
Thinking,
Is that
Adam.
But
really true? Did
no,
Adam not
not
invite
true.
you?
No, Adam actually did invite me to his birthday
Well,
party.
lie down on the couch. We'll talk about this.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
talk about it, Alan.
But do you guys get what I'm saying?
No, I like it. I just like I like a practical thing. I think it's one thing for us to all agree that's a problem, but to
Mhm.
say, hey, where can we go from here? And I think that's a useful, helpful thing. And it doesn't take a lot of technology. just release it from your brain, put it somewhere, and deal with it.
Why do I feel like you're looking directly at me?
Well, just because we think
Why
about
do I
it,
feel that way,
I
Scotty?
mean, isn't that one of the cool things about the human brain and that it is so concerned about us? And that it
Yeah.
does not want us to forget things that it thinks could be harmful to us. It
Yeah.
wants to make sure that any
Brain
advantages
is
that
a
we think
crazy,
of, that we
amazing thing.
implement. I love that our brain does that. It's just, can our brains trust us that if we say we'll do it later, we will? Because as we know in life, a lot of people who say, "Oh, I'll do that later," or "I'll do that tomorrow," those are things they'll never do. So again, it's we all say that I think in the moment of what we're going to do because it feels really good. It sort of answers the question and we feel like good about our decision of doing something good in the future. But we also don't have to actually do anything because it's in the future. And so I think that's sort of the other aspect of things too, is you just want to make sure that, you know, that we think of things that way too. And again, I just think that in the future too, we want to make sure that we're always on top of what our brain wants to do.
Waffle stomp.
I know.
Yep.
Well,
Hashtag.
You sure you want to be attached to that?
I just can't. It's like
I will share
it's
it.
like making me think about flip-flops and bare feet,
I
and it's
just
just all of it is just it's so horrifying. And why did
I
you have to
flip
bring that
flop.
up
That's why you're supposed to wear the slippers in the shower, especially in
Oh my
public
gosh.
places.
at hotels?
Yeah.
I know what
First
if
in
people
Okay,
in the hotels
Hudson,
are doing that?
which listener gets associated with Waffle Stomp today?
first in story is Julia
Yes.
Hughes. Her name is Julia Hughes. So just she has no connection to the waffle stomp.
Okay.
No connection
So
to it.
not affiliated.
Not affiliated in any way. She's
Okay.
just was first in story, right, Alan?
She was first in story, yes.
First in story. And so Julia's a mom. I think she's a teacher, has owns a boat. She owns a boat. And Julia Hughes. I
Hey,
don't know
Julia, want
about
another boat?
With a broken seized engine that doesn't
I
run.
don't know. This is one of the weirdest podcasts. You know what? It
Yeah.
was just they went in so many different directions,
Yeah.
but it was a good conversation because I
Yeah.
think that we all Google shit. I'm so sorry, Scott. I was trying so hard all night tonight not to do one curse word, but it happened. But we all everyone Googles, everybody YouTubes, but I think it's cool when you can use that as a tool to like enhance your life. Like being able to fix your own stuff, Scotty. I'm so proud of you and Color Me so impressed. Like, oh,
You know, my mother-in-law said I didn't know he had it in him when I repaired her shed when we were there recently in
did you
Arkansas.
do that too?
Oh yeah, I totally
Okay,
tore
I
up
would have said the same thing. I wouldn't have thought you
I
had it in
tore
you.
off the back of her wooden shed and replaced it with brand new. But my I guess my advice, and I try to take this myself, and I fail constantly, is uh, use technology the way it's intended. Don't let it lead you because it is a time sucker and a future waster.
Yep.
I totally agree.
That's why I
Absolutely.
don't like those algorithms on YouTube. I think you should look at whatever you choose to look at on YouTube and don't let YouTube tell you what to look at.
There you go.
Yep, that's some good damn advice right there.
Yep.
Hudson Hott, Scotty Blaisdell, Alan Wagner, LMFT, we're Mike in Mind. Thanks for watching. Thanks for liking, subscribing. We're on every platform. Obviously, we're on YouTube. We're streaming live our first time. At least I think we are. I don't know if I did it right, but we'll find out. But again, please be sure and like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.
Peace.
Peace.